Hello and welcome to MacFormat's weekly Apple Extravaganza. I'm Chris Finn.
I'm Matt Bolton.
And on this episode we talk about what else the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus. Again, dispensing with our regular 3-segment format in favour of 15 minutes of joy on these devices.
Absolutely.
You have not touched these yet.
I haven't done. I saw the box.
Yes, the anonymous white box. What do you want to start with first? Plus?
No, let's start with the. Let's start small and go big.
There you go.
Thank you. So you've unboxed these, but this is my unboxing.
This is your unboxing
experience.
I've been playing with these as I walked into work this morning. Incidentally, thank you very much to 3 who's couriered these to us this morning in a rush. Matt and I are both independently paying customers of 3, so we're happy to recommend them.
Yes. So first thing with the box is the sort of suspicious white.
It does look like these are sort of OEM boxes, doesn't it?
Yeah, like they've gone from having the home screen on it or what have you. Next, because it's curved, including on the front now, I really can't.
Yeah, that'll do.
Okay.
Now the thing that's really noticeable, I find, with the 6 is that it's not particularly noticeable, in as much as it is very much an evolution of the iPhone.
It looks just like the 5S, but it's a bit bigger.
And actually,
it's the curve and stuff you feel, but when you just
even the size of it to me didn't feel particularly different to the. I mean, it is because we're going from 4 inch to 4.7 inch, so there's another 0.7 of an inch in it.
So just picking this up, having been using my 5S all morning, at first I'm like, it really isn't that different, but I can already I'm already not quite managing to stretch to the.
They're set up by the way, so you can switch them on.
Ooh, with the new
side-mounted button.
Yes.
And one thing that's noticeable as well is the thinness. Apple makes a big thing of the thinnest phones ever made, and there's the element in me that goes, stop fucking making them thin all the time. Thinness is not the only thing, because if it was thicker, battery life we know is improved, but there is no reason for it to be quite so thin.
I'm just looking at the display, which is really nice. Which
is lovely. And I have to say, I could sum up in one tiny screenshot the thing that got me excited about the iPhone 6, which is, if you look on the Apple homepage, the way they've shot it shows the fact that the glass blends round and curves. You can see a little slash of light showing that blend of the screen right on the body. And that is lovely.
It's
really
nice,
especially for sideways swipes.
Yeah. Testing. You don't lie.
Matthew can confirm that sideways swipes are really nice.
The little camera bulge isn't quite as, well, it doesn't seem as prominent as it does on the iPod Touch, but maybe that's because the whole thing is so much bigger.
And again, we've got this.
A little bit of wobble.
Which was the thing that annoyed me most when we went from the original iPhone, which are flat back, to the 3G and 3GS, which were both lovely phones in the hand.
I just used to like spinning mine. I would just put it on the desk and just flip it like a top.
Yeah.
Which is exactly how you're supposed to treat.
Absolutely, high-end consumer electronics. But
the bands on the back are kind of weird.
Yeah, they're not
very different colour to the rest. I don't know if they've tried to blend it.
I would imagine not.
If that's the case.
Overall, the sort of visual design of it as a piece of as an industrial design object is not particularly lovely. It's not an astonishing, impressive thing. And you're right; those bands on the back are a little unsightly.
There's nothing like the leap from when we went from the 3GS to the iPhone 4, which was just crazy.
Absolute quantum leap. And there was talk then at the time about the sort of feel you get from high-end watches, which was true.
And Leica cameras was what Steve Jobs said.
Absolutely.
On stage. I mean, this is still essentially a rev of that.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah. I mean,
it can't all be massive leaps forward.
But talking of massive.
Yes.
And this does feels preposterous. It really does feel outsized. Basically, I've decided I don't want one.
Okay.
In the time I've spent
with it. Just a few minutes. I mean, it's heavy too. I know it's relatively light compared to some other 5.5 inches.
Yeah.
But just compared to this one,
yes.
Yeah, it's quite a lot heavier.
It's quite a lot heavier.
And
now you've passed the first test. Actually, you've got slightly longer thumbs than I have. I genuinely found it quite hard to unlock it.
You couldn't reach far enough across the screen
to grab it, to pull it across, and then having to cramp your thumb on the way to the other side. It's tricky. Matt will now demonstrate for Tom.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's so top heavy.
That's the. Do you know what the thing is though? Here's my biggest thing with this was always, when we went from the 3.5-inch screen to the 4-inch screen, i.e. from the iPhone 4, 4S to the iPhone 5. The thing that really concerned me was how top heavy it was at this end. It felt like all the time when I was walking along one-handed, it would constantly be dropping out my hand that way. This one does, but the problem's actually even more the width. It's not the height, because you have to constantly be moving your fingers around.
I'm really conscious of how spread out my fingers are.
Yeah.
Maybe this is just because it's the first time using one after using my little 5S all morning.
Little 5S.
My little tiny 5S. Also, reaching up for that button is a stretch.
Yeah.
It's huge.
It is huge.
It's
and
definitely
it's
huge.
Genuinely not something you can happily use one-handed. And to be honest, the so we've got the double tap on the home button now, as you'll now demonstrate. Or yes, no, not double, not double. So you just tap it rather than press it.
There
we go. So which slides the screen down, which is fine, which solves the up and downy thing, but again doesn't solve the sidey thing, because if you, let's go, so imagine you're going to tap a button at the top left, double tap the button there and reach across the top left, the sidey is still difficult.
It's still quite far.
And again, I really worry about the weight and the shifting. I'm just amazed I managed to walk the half hour into work this morning and not drop this thing.
Were you using it while walking?
Yeah, and you. And if I say you can't, I'm not. It's not true. You can use it one-handed, but it's absolutely not easy. And it's one of those things where I was thinking this morning, maybe you do think about buying Apple Care Plus with this, because the chances for smashing it are quite dramatic.
So you have this in. There's two modes to run iOS on this: zoomed and regular. Standard. And standard gives you more typing options.
It does. So yes, it does. If you turn it to landscape.
Oh. You've locked the.
Yeah, that's true. Because I was having trouble this morning with the screen. So you'll see there's more typing options there.
I've got cut, copy, paste,
caret. So you can nudge the caret, the insertion point, which is really, really, really good.
Yeah, that's nice.
Which is lovely, and those persist even on the 6.
So that also has the new buttons.
Yep,
but smaller.
Fewer.
Less
so there's even more options on the.
So I don't have cut, copy, and paste because I have those in the tab and paste, but I do have move the caret.
Yep.
And undo.
Yeah, I kept hitting and incidentally, emoji is enabled by default now as well, which is an iOS 8 thing, I presume, rather than anything to do with these devices. But I hadn't realised that.
I upgraded to iOS 8, but I already had emoji turned on.
So yeah, so you get that. So as you say, these are both in the standard mode, which is to say that icons and other UI elements remain the same logical size as they are on previous generations.
You're not going to try and get into.
I'm not going to get into points and virtual points.
But
my point is that if you're on standard, everything's smaller, but you can have more content on the screen. Whereas on zoomed mode, it essentially takes the stuff that's there on the iPhone 5, let's say 5S, and then zooms it up. It's revealing how filthy my iPad mini.
So here's your family in real life. Your 6 Plus, and your iPad Mini. Mm-hmm. I didn't bring my. If I thought I would have brought my big iPad.
And we would put an iPhone 5 down there, but Tom's holding one, and there's one there, so we can't.
I've got my 4S downstairs.
That's true. If we compare to Tom's little tiny 4S.
But yeah, it's just in the hand. The difference in where you can reach is quite dramatic.
It is dramatic, and I am really basically. I think this makes a lot of sense. This device, the 6 Plus, makes a lot of sense if you're just at home or in the office. If you're not really moving very far, similar to with an iPad, you wouldn't really try to use an iPad one-handed or use an iPad on the go. You'd get somewhere and then use it. But I find for me, I'm constantly just putting my iPhone in my pocket to do various things, maps and tweets and that sort of stuff, as I'm walking. Can't do it with the 6 Plus. Can do it with the 6 though.
But what if you had a watch?
That's the next question, exactly that.
So there's a plan, evidently, at Apple. There's a theory.
And that was also true with the Apple Watch. Of course, people were making disparaging comments because the Apple Watch has to be tethered through Bluetooth to a phone, that if you went out running, then you have to strap this behemoth to your arm.
This has less wobble.
Yes, true. But that's not true. It's not true because the fitness tracking part of the Apple Watch works independent of a phone. So you can leave your enormous phablet at home, go off running and then come back and then loll on the sofa and look at the results.
Landscape mode is kind of weird.
It is weird, but it is nice.
Yeah, I mean,
I do like it.
It's big enough that it makes sense.
But I find, see how you feel typing landscape? Can you reach the middle of the keyboard comparatively comfortably? Because I find that to be a little bit of a stretch.
Well, I mean, I can't type, but I can. Yeah, like it's not super comfortable, but...
Because I was wondering if that was the point at which it made sense to me that we would actually use this much more in landscape than we might use it in portrait.
Yeah.
Would make sense to me.
I can imagine. I can't. Well, again, it's just we've had big phones before.
Yep.
Not
From
iPhones,
Apple.
but Android phones. But how you would necessarily use them or what the best way to interact with them is depends on the manufacturer's skin, depends on the exact kind of size and weight on the phone, whether you would use that landscape or portrait or whatever. So even if someone can tell you, oh, don't worry, a 5.5 inch phone is perfectly usable, what they mean is their Android phone is using iOS in a 5.5 inch size is possibly a different matter.
There's no denying that it's a very impressive thing. Like, it feels exciting, and genuinely, I was using Apple Maps as I was walking down this morning, and having such a big canvas to look at stuff on is fantastic.
Yeah.
But it very much depends on your on how you're going to use these devices and where, importantly.
Going by what we've seen so far, I'd probably go for the 6.
And yet the 6 Plus is the one that we've seen selling out. Now, is that because of higher demand, or is that because...
On the first day, it's always going to be... It's the different one.
Exactly.
It's going to be the one that developers are buying because it's new, that enthusiasts want to buy because it's different to what...
There is, of course, another explanation, which is that yields will have been slightly lower, possibly, from Apple.
Yes.
So it might just be that there's fewer in the supply chain. So we can't read too much into it. And, of course, Apple hasn't broken down its record sales pre-orders figures. It's just said iPhone 6, so we don't know.
But yeah, my initial thought is the 6 would definitely suit me better of these two. The thing is, I know that this has optical image stabilization in the camera.
Although we don't know how much of a difference that makes yet.
No. I've seen a few people trying to test it, and in their test it didn't make a huge amount of difference, but it doesn't mean it never will.
No.
There's as ever, there's a few things that make you go, oh, maybe this would be maybe the big one would be better.
So, well, the only real difference is that optical image stabilization.
And the battery life. A big difference in battery life, depending on task.
Depending on task. Some metrics are much bigger, some... And I can't remember the figures off the top of my head, but I think the ones that are important to me, which is like 3G performance, are not especially. The difference is negligible between the two.
Did you see the iFixit teardown of the 6 Plus?
I started to read it.
Its battery is twice the capacity of the 5S's, and a sort of 50% increase on the 6. And they gave it a really good repairability score, actually. They said, compared to the 5S, it was much easier to fix different elements.
Do we know anything more about RAM from that teardown?
1.
So it's confirmed as 1 because
going by the part number.
There was some confusion over that.
But people had also done diagnostics of running the phone through Xcode. I think it's Xcode you use.
Yes, the instruments.
The instruments. And that was reporting 1 gigabyte. Yeah. So that definitely seems to be the case.
Which is a little pokey.
It's
a little the headroom kind of thing is getting a little awkward, especially when you're powering so many pixels on the 6 Plus.
In this case, yeah. But yeah, it's really nicely made. I really like the curve, all the curves.
Yes.
The curves on the front, curves on the back. That's really big. It's really big.
It's big, and
I've got an iPad.
I would genuinely have this and not have an iPad. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
But my problem is just that as I'm using my phone one-handed, I do a lot as I'm walking around. This is just, I am going to drop it. I am going to smash it. And these go up to £800.
I'm sure there's lots of lovely case makers who are keen to
I'm sure there
sell
are.
you something to protect it from drops.
I'm sure there are. Well, we will do, of course, a full review of these. We'll spend a lot of time with them, really put them through their paces. So look out for our full official MacFormat verdict in issue 280 of MacFormat. Look out for that when it hits the newsstands. Thanks again to 3 for getting these phones to us so quickly so that we could do this show this morning. And of course, remember to subscribe to the MacFormat YouTube channel, youtube.com/MacFormatUK. Catch up on previous episodes of this show and try out the MacFormat iPad edition at macformat.com/iPad. Let us know what you think of the iPhone 6 in the comments below. If you've got one, let us know what you think. If you haven't, let us know why. But that's it for this week. We shall see you next week.
Bye.
Right. Hello and welcome to MacFormat's weekly Apple Extravaganza.
Did you
I've got
forget your name?
to do more than that, don't I?